In professional golf, seismic shifts are rare. Most seasons follow familiar rhythms, schedule announcements, answers, quiet contract extensions, and carefully managed press statements. But heading into 2026, that pattern was broken in dramatic fashion. Rory McIlroy didn't just make a routine career move, he did something that sent shockwaves through the PGA Tour. It wasn't reckless, it wasn't impulsive. It was calculated, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. And the moment it happened, the conversation around the future of men's professional golf changed overnight. Because when Rory McIlroy moves, the entire sport feels it. At a time when fans expected stability, another predictable season built around legacy names and established structures, McIlroy chose disruption. The kind that forces executives, players, sponsors, and rivals to stop and reassess their assumptions. This wasn't about chasing one more trophy or padding career statistics. This was about influence, about leverage, about shaping what the PGA Tour will look like, not just next year, but for the rest of the decade. And that's what made it feel so extraordinary. What makes this moment even more striking is the timing. McIlroy enters 2026 not as a player searching for validation, but as one who already has it. His 2025 season was nothing short of historic. By finally slipping on the green jacket at Augusta, he completed the career Grand Slam, a milestone that had eluded him for more than a decade. It wasn't just a win, it was a release. A defining chapter closed at last, and with it came a sense that Rory McIlroy no longer had anything left to prove to the game itself. And yet, instead of settling into comfort, he leaned forward. With majors conquered and legacy secured, McIlroy found himself in a rare position. Freedom. Freedom to think beyond scorecards and Sundays. Freedom to consider how power operates within modern golf. Freedom to ask whether the PGA Tour's future truly aligns with its past, and whether someone with enough credibility could force it to evolve. That's the context that matters here, because what Rory McIlroy just did isn't shocking because it's loud. It's shocking because it's strategic. It suggests intent, and it hints that 2026 may not be business as usual after all. So the real question isn't whether this move matters, it's how far the consequences will reach. To understand why Rory McIlroy's move toward 2026 carries so much weight, you have to rewind to what came before it. Long before any future-facing decisions were made, McIlroy had already rewritten the narrative of his own career. The 2025 season didn't just add another highlight to his resume, it resolved the one chapter that had lingered unresolved for over a decade. When Rory McIlroy finally won the Masters, it wasn't merely a victory, it was the completion of a journey that had defined his professional life. And with that moment, everything changed. The Masters win did more than earn McIlroy a green jacket. It completed the career Grand Slam, placing him in one of the most exclusive clubs in golf history. The pressure that had followed him to Augusta year after year vanished instantly. For the first time in a long time, McIlroy was no longer chasing history. He was standing inside it. That psychological shift mattered, because when a player stops playing to prove something, they start playing with clarity, and that clarity showed itself again and again as the season unfolded. What followed was dominance, not relief. McIlroy backed up his Masters triumph with multiple wins across the global calendar. He didn't fade after achieving the sport's ultimate milestone. He accelerated. Victories on both sides of the Atlantic, consistent contention in elite fields, and a commanding performance in the race to Dubai confirmed that this wasn't a sentimental peak, it was sustained excellence. Add in year-end honors and international recognition, and 2025 became more than memorable. It became definitive. But success brings its own weight. By the time the calendar turned toward 2026, McIlroy wasn't entering the new season as just another top-ranked player. He was entering as the benchmark. Fans expected dominance. Bombs. Sponsors expected leadership. The tour expected stability. Every appearance carried expectation, and every decision carried consequence. This was no longer a golfer navigating his legacy. This was a golfer shaping the environment around him. And that's the key detail so many miss. Because Rory McIlroy didn't step into 2026 as a contender, hoping things would break his way. He arrived as a dominant force, fully aware that when you stand at the top of the sport, every move echoes far beyond the fairways. So, what was the move that sent shockwaves through the golf world? It wasn't a swing change, it wasn't a coaching hire, and it wasn't a quiet contract extension behind closed doors. Instead, Rory McIlroy made a bold, public commitment that ran directly against the way most elite golfers now operate. At a moment when many of the game's biggest stars are carefully trimming schedules, prioritizing majors, and protecting longevity, McIlroy did the opposite. He leaned in, fully. McIlroy effectively signaled that he would anchor himself to the evolving core of the PGA Tour's 2026 vision, embracing its restructured calendar, its signature events, and its experimental future-facing projects. Rather than cherry-picking appearances or treating non-majors as optional, he positioned himself as a central figure in the tour's next phase. That alone raised eyebrows. But what truly stunned insiders was how intentional it was. This wasn't nostalgia, it was alignment. The 2026 PGA Tour calendar is anything but traditional. Signature events carry heavier weight. Player commitments are under sharper scrutiny, and newer ventures, including technology-driven team-based formats, are no longer side projects. They're part of the tour's long-term survival strategy. While some players have remained cautious, even skeptical, McIlroy stepped forward as a believer, a participant, a leader. That puts him in stark contrast with the modern superstar template. Most top players today manage exposure. They guard energy. They avoid becoming symbols of institutional direction. McIlroy chose visibility instead. He chose responsibility. And in doing so, he tied his personal brand not just to winning tournaments, but to whether the PGA Tour's evolving structure succeeds or fails. That's where the risk comes in, because if the schedule overwhelms players, if new formats struggle, if fan engagement doesn't follow, McIlroy will be inseparable from the outcome. He didn't hedge. He didn't wait to see how things played out. He committed before certainty existed. And in professional sports, that's rare. This wasn't just a scheduling decision, it was a philosophical one. Rory McIlroy didn't bet on himself as a golfer. He bet on the future of the tour itself. And when a player of his stature does that, it stops being personal and starts being structural, which raises an uncomfortable question for everyone else watching closely. What if this gamble reshapes the balance of power in golf entirely? The reaction was immediate and deeply divided. Within hours of Rory McIlroy's stance becoming clear, the golf world split into camps. Commentators dissected every word. Former players weighed in on broadcasts and podcasts. Fans flooded social media with equal parts admiration and skepticism. This wasn't just another top player making noise, this was Rory McIlroy stepping into a role that few players ever willingly occupy. Lightning rod. To some, McIlroy's move looked visionary, a necessary show of leadership at a time when the PGA Tour is still redefining itself after years of upheaval. Supporters argued that golf needs star players who do more than protect their own schedules, players willing to help stabilize the ecosystem. In that view, McIlroy wasn't sacrificing anything. He was investing, betting that long-term relevance matters more than short-term convenience.